I'd like to welcome you here this evening. It's a little after 7, and we're trying to get started right on time. Or John gets upset. I'd like to welcome you, and I'd like to introduce you to the chairman of our Redistricting Committee, Mr. John Unger from Berkeley County.
Hello. I didn't know I'd be sitting up here tonight, but I've been asked to do a welcome also. And basically to the senators and delegates that aren't from Wood County, I'd like to welcome you as mayor and senator to our wonderful county. And we appreciate you coming here and what you do and the time you take to explain to the people and give them a good idea of what we're looking at and to try to get their input. And with that, I'll introduce our majority leader of the Senate, John Unger, and a fantastic guy to work with. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you for There you go. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Great turnout. This is our 10th meeting of 12 meetings that we're having across the state. And when the Senate was appointed, Senator Kessler, President Kessler, appointed the task force in the Senate for the redistricting. We had representatives from all 17 senatorial districts. We also looked and was very conscious of the political makeup as far as political parties, Democrat, Republican. And the idea was our first act wasn't to sit down and talk among ourselves of what we would like to do. Our first act was to go out and talk to the public and ask you what you would like for us to do. So we've been traveling across the state for the last 2 months, going all over and having informational meetings here at different areas, asking the question of what would you like to see for us to look at and do in the area of redistricting. So we do not have any maps that's approved or even any maps that we have discussed among ourselves to try to sell you, try to convince you that this is the best way to go. We only have what we received from others throughout the state, and that's on our website. If you go to the West Virginia Legislature and go under Senate and redistricting, you will see any submission regarding senatorial or congressional maps on that website. You will also see other meetings that we've had. You can click on it and watch from YouTube other meetings. Also, people have posted comments. You're able to give feedback to us on that website as well. I got to say that the Senate Redistricting Task Force looks at the Senate and the Congressional redistricting. The House of Delegates, they look at the House of Delegate districts and the Congressional. And so we work together on the Congressional. But the House of Delegates deals primarily with the House districts, and the Senate deals primarily with the Senate districts, and we both work together on the Congressional. However, we're very fortunate. We have House members here with us, joining us. They have joined us throughout the whole process, even though they've just organized here recently for their committee. But they have been with us. They've come to the meetings, and they're listening to the public as well as the senators. And so with that, I'll get in a little more detail. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and give the members on the task force and the panel here an opportunity to introduce themselves, where they're from, how far they have to travel to get here, because that's always interesting. For some people, they may not know the geography of where do you actually live. And you'll see from the diversity in our task force that people have traveled pretty good distances, or their homes are from afar. And they're here. They're not getting paid to be here. They do get reimbursed for their travel, but that's it. They're here because they want to be here to listen to you on this. It's very important to them. And as you can see, we've had a very good turnout with our panel. So with that, I'll start down here with Senator Klempa from the Northern Panhandle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Courtney Klempa. I'm from the Northern Panhandle, the first senatorial district, which encompasses Hancock, Broken, Ohio counties. I live in Wheeling, West Virginia. That district is soon going to grow because we've had a population loss up there of about 10,000 people. So we're going to grow to where the first senatorial district is actually going to become part of Marshall County as well. I'm blessed because it's not controversial up there, because if we go east or west, I move into Ohio, the state of, or Pennsylvania, the state of. And I've contacted those folks and found out that they have entirely too many problems for me to move people on part of their state. I like it right here where we have a nice fiscal responsible legislative body. But having said that, it's a pleasure to be here. I actually, although I live in Wheeling, I traveled from Charleston because we just finished interim sessions. And if you know the area, I'm halfway home. Another hour and a half after this meeting, I'll be in my kitchen, probably fixing something to eat. But it's a pleasure to be here and look forward to your comments.
Good evening. I'm Bob Williams. I represent the 14th Senatorial District, which includes Taylor, Tucker, Barber, Preston, Mineral, Grant, and Montague counties. I live in Taylor County, and I, like Senator Klempa, have left Charleston and drove up here, and I also have about an hour and 15 or 20 minutes to go to get home, so I'm about halfway home too. So we're looking forward to hearing what you all have to say this evening, and see how that compares to what we've heard in other areas around the state. So we appreciate you all coming out this evening to speak with us.
My name is Bill Laird. I'm a state senator. I live in Oak Hill, which is in Fayette County. I represent the 11th Senatorial District, which includes Fayette, Nicholas, Clay, Webster, and most of Upshur County. I too drove up from Charleston, but unlike these folks, I have to turn around and head back south. So, but again, I'm very pleased to be with you all this evening.
I'm Donna Bowley. I live in Pleasant County. I serve the 3rd Senatorial District, which is Pleasant, Wood, Worth, and part of Rome. And we have all been in Charleston for interims this week. That's why we're headed back home.
I'm Ron Miller. I represent the 10th District, which the Senatorial District is comprised of Greenbrier, Monroe, Summers, Fayette, and a little bit of Mercer County also. I'm probably the furthest away from home, except for the majority leader. I think it's about I drove up from Charleston, and I'm driving back to Charleston, but I think it's about a three-hour drive for me, roughly a little over 3 hours. But I'm part of part of that deep south. Tonight.
I'm Delegate Bob Ashley, member from Rome County. Recently put on the House Redistricting Committee, and since the senators were nearby, I thought I would come up and listen to the talk, the questions you all have, so we'll have a little bit of thought as we do the process on the House side. Just for the senators, I live in Spencer, which I drive Route 14, which most of you all know by the time I dodge the potholes, I'm about an hour and a half away from home also.
I'm John Ellum, and it took me 5 minutes to get here. Interested to see what everybody has to say.
I'm Dan Bowling. I'm on the House Redistricting Committee along with Bob and John. So we want to come tonight to hear comments. We will be having a meeting for the House, but tonight there may be some things that we can pick up to help us along with our process as we go forward. So we wanted to come and hear what everyone had to say. And I do thank each and every one of you for taking the time to be concerned about your community to come out. So thank you.
I'm Larry Edgell from Webster County. I'm exactly halfway when I come through Parkersburg. I have an hour left. I've been in the car for an hour. And my wife is helping your economy. She's shopping as I'm here. So. I represent Ohio, Marshall, Wetzel, Tyler, Doddridge, Ritchie, Calhoun, and Mon and Marion counties. So I've got your right side covered.
Thank you. And I'm John Under, Senator from Jefferson and Berkeley counties. That's about 4.5 5-hour drive from here. And so I'm not halfway home. So anyhow, but it's good to be here and appreciate you being here. Now I want to go ahead and invite Aaron up. As he's coming up, I'll introduce him. But also want to tell you, the very purpose of this meeting is to hear from you, but on this in redistricting, every 10 years, a census occurs in our country. And then after the census, after we receive the census numbers, we are constitutionally obligated to go through a redistricting process in order to uphold a very sacred principle in the Constitution, and that is the one person, one vote, equal representation. And so with that, that's why we have to go through this process. We are looking at early August, when the governor will call a special session. That hasn't been official, but I think that's what they're leaning on doing. That's when we will have to go through that process. But before, again, we want to come out and talk with you. And that will go, early August will be when we actually will convene and vote on it. With that, I want to introduce Aaron Allred. He's our legislative director as far as the manager, also the legislative auditor from our state. And he's going to give you a little bit of the background and the numbers and the history of redistricting in West Virginia. And I just want to make sure if everybody got their literature when they walked in. We have maps and statistics and numbers like that, and he'll be referring to that as he goes along. Aaron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Senator Unger talked about, in the federal Constitution, there's a requirement of a census every 10 years. And in understanding redistricting, one thing to understand is that the census is done in what they call census blocks, which are small geographic areas, but must be large enough with regards to the number of people that when you look at the data from a census block, there is no personal identifying information you can glean from that census data. I.e., you can't have a census block that has only one family in it. You can look and see in that census block that the average income is $38,523, and you know that that family makes that exact amount of money. Now, in taking the census data, the Census Bureau works very well with my office in trying to get it to match the blocks with what we know as the precincts, etc. But that does not always occur. So what's going to happen after the census and now redistricting is done is the county clerk's offices are going to have to look and see whether they have to rearrange precinct lines at the boundaries. West Virginia law requires that the precincts match the district lines for House and Senate seats. And there are thousands of precincts in West Virginia, and every time we do redistricting, there's always going to be a few counties, I don't understand why, because the law is clear, they decide in this particular precinct, as opposed to cutting it in half and adding parts of the precinct to an attached precinct, what they're going to do is they know that these three people that live north of Smith Street are in Senator Jones's district. And all of you people, when you come in to vote, you'll get one ballot, and they know these three people live north of Smith Street, and they'll give them a second ballot. Under West Virginia election law, that's illegal. So for the clerks, they want this information with regards to redistricting early, so that they can make the changes in the precinct lines to line up with the lines for the House and Senate districts. The federal courts have an involvement in this. They've set down some guidelines when it comes to redistricting. With regards to congressional seats, it really is one man, one vote. The 3 congressional seats in West Virginia are supposed to be precisely the same, which would be 617,665. With one exception, federal courts have allowed a 1% variance if districts are based upon counties, a community of interest, which the West Virginia Constitution also requires. So there can be a little variance in the 3 congressional districts in West Virginia, but not much. However, the federal courts have allowed there to be a plus or minus 5% variance with regards to legislative seats, which means for the Senate, the ideal Senate seat is 109,000 citizens within that Senate seat exactly, with a minimum of 103,550 and a maximum of 114,450. With regards to the House, the ideal is 18,530 citizens per member. And of course, we have multi-member districts in West Virginia, so if you've got a 5-member district, you would multiply that number by 5, with the max being 19,456 and the minimum being 17,603. Now, we've had a serious population shift in West Virginia. We've had approximately 70,000 people move into the area from Morgantown to Charlestown. So you're going to see a shift in Senate seats between that area. That's going to have a bigger effect on Senate redistricting than it is on House redistricting. In 2001, when the House did redistricting, they took those areas of the state that were growing and put them at the low end of what was allowed for district size. The Senate didn't do that. The Senate took those 3 Senate districts up in that area and maximized them. Those 3 districts still, today, even with our population growth, would be above what the ideal district size is. So there's no way around it. You're going to have a shift of Senate seats from southern West Virginia to northern West Virginia. The 70,000 increase is approximately 3/4 of a Senate seat, which would be 1.5 senators. And there's going to have to be some shifting. So the politicians are going to have to deal with the fact that there are going to be losers and there's going to be winners in redistricting. Finally, if you look at the Senate seat here, Senate District number 3, it's one that had very little change. You've only had a decrease of 1,486 people since 2000, which is about 1.4%. However, because West Virginia's got the 2 panhandles and you've got no choice, you have to start redistricting in the panhandle and work towards the center of the state. It's still possible that because you're going to have some impact on District 2, because District 1 has a population loss, that you may have some impact on District 3 here in Wood, Pleasant, and Worth County. That'll have to be seen. But just because you've been stable doesn't mean that there's not some impact on the Senate district, because there's impact on the surrounding Senate district. It's like putting a Rubik's Cube together. You make a change on one side, you're going to have to change another side. With that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, now it's your time. We like to always start with any of the city or county officials. If you haven't signed up, please do, and then also if you haven't indicated if you want to talk or not, if you feel the urge to speak, please raise your hand as we get through this list. So even if you didn't sign up to speak, or you can put no next to it, but you do wish to speak. Sometimes the spirit moves you, and you really have to say something because someone said something you didn't like, and feel free to express your opinion. With that, I'd like to first call Wood County Clerk Jamie Six to the front. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this mic to you, and if you could just speak in the mic, and then I'll just make the names, call the names later. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming to Wood County, and I too was in Charleston for the last 2 days, so I'm on my way. I'm with my way also. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm real happy to hear the early August time frame that you mentioned. Obviously, as clerks, we do have a lot of work to do once you all are done with your job in Charleston. But the other thing that I didn't hear anybody indicate tonight, I'm sure you all probably were of it, but just in case you haven't heard this, don't forget, like City of Parkersburg, our council people run by district. They don't run at large. Like Deanna runs the whole city. Parkersburg runs by districts. As soon as you draw your lines, they will look to make sure that their lines, when they go to do their redistricting, they'll try to match their lines to yours, so where we don't have to have 2 sets of voter registration votes for the city and then for the county-wide election, and especially since we piggyback our city election on, their lines will have to match. If you draw the 10th Alley district line at a certain street in Parkersburg, we need to make sure that the council district matches that. And then once we're done with the city, then we will go to the county commission and do the magisterial districts for the county commissioner races and for the board of education races. So once you all are done, we still have a lot of work ahead of us, as you all well aware. We got something happen in October that we've got on our plate also, a special election. But as the clerk for Wood County and clerks across the state, you all have great clerks in your counties also. The clerks will step up and do everything we can to make sure that the lines are drawn correctly and we get the right people in the right districts. And you know, It used to be that you all could use ridge lines, and they've cracked down on that, to my understanding. The Census Bureau, when they did the census count, had to be a physical location. We have some places here in Wood County where I had to move the old census line. It used to be down the back of the mountain, and they said, no, you have to use the street. And we had people on one side of the street going to one precinct, and on the other side going to the other, because it may be in the 10th on one side and in the 9th or the 8th on the other side of the street. And we get beat up a little bit about that, but we try to explain that. And I know you all have an awesome task before you to try to put this puzzle together, but thank you for taking input of the people in Wood County and the clerks across the state. We'll step up and help you get it done too.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, as he mentioned, after our work, that's when the county clerks have to do theirs and municipalities. And of course, with the special election in October, it doesn't give them much time to January to get everything in line. So that's why the earlier date, the better is for you. I don't see any more county or municipal officials that have signed up or have indicated they're county or municipal officials. Are there any others that out there that would like to speak at this time? You're more than welcome to speak anytime, but if you're a county or municipal official, you would like to speak, please stand up, come forward and introduce yourself. Okay? If not, I'd like to next go with Harold Brown. Harold?
Thank you, Senator. I'm chairman of the Wood County Democratic Executive Committee, and obviously I have a high level of interest in this subject. I read the local papers and the Charleston Gazette daily, and some of the things that are commented on, I think, are sort of off base. Because of the confusion, I called the redistricting office in Charleston this afternoon, and I understand very clearly the priorities are that you folks here tonight are primarily concerned with senatorial districts, state senatorial districts. The delegates, House of Delegates, of course, take care of their own. Then jointly between the two of you, you address congressional district issues. I tend to believe that if it's working reasonably well, don't mess with it. Now, I understand the mandate, necessity of balancing the population from district to district, and I'm sure that job will be done. For those that want to have a little conflict over single delegate district versus multiple delegate districts, and we have one of those in District 10 here, and two of the gentlemen are sitting here, and we think we've got a wonderful arrangement. But anyhow, for those who really want to mess with that, I say, well, if you want to really change things, then let's look at the congressional districts. I've asked the question, what are the differences in the interests of people over on the Potomac River and people over on the Ohio River? And we've got a district that it's really a weird-looking thing. It runs all the way across there. Of course, the solution to that would be add one county to District 3 to balance things out. It needs a little bit of help down there, population-wise. Roughly draw a line along Interstate 79, north and south, and you've got West District, East District, District 1, District 2, and a very interesting thing because that would throw Kanawha County, Wood County, and the Northern Panhandle all together, and we'd have some fun next year.
Okay. Thank you, Harold. With all the elections we're having, I guess we're having a lot of fun. As many as we're having. Well, thank you very much. Next, we have Tom Stark. Tom?
Lady and gentlemen, appreciate the opportunity to address you. It's rare when we get a chance to speak to so many senators and House delegates, members at one time. I'm curious, though, since the opportunity is here, whether there's anyone on town who will state unequivocally if they support or oppose single delegate districts. I understand this being about Senate districts, but I think you will end up voting on the issue of single delegate districts one way or the other. And I think it will be an excellent opportunity for the people to start learning where the support is, where the resistance is. Because I have yet to hear a legitimate argument that says that single delegate districts does not more sincerely meet the requirement of one man, one vote. It's just impossible to present such an argument. I'm still waiting to hear one. So that's just one man's opinion, but I think it's shared by a number of others. With regard to the congressional districts, there is also no sensible argument against just simply moving Mason County into the third and balancing the district numbers very nicely within the limits required by the code. Anything else is tantamount to messing with the district line simply for political gain or loss. I just don't see any other way around that. The argument, I think, is almost transparent when you talk about shifting congressional lines north and south. There's a very transparent argument as to why that's being presented as a possible alternative. And I would hope you would see through it and resist that effort. I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. Now, as far as local speakers, we have individuals that have signed up, but we're going to introduce. I'm going to introduce somebody that's been to every redistricting meeting since we started, all over the state. He travels. He's not part of the committee. He's a citizen, but he's been here, been at every one, and usually he gets the juices flowing with whatever he says. With that, I'd like to introduce Thornton Cooper from Charleston. Thornton?
South Charleston.
South Charleston.
Like that, somebody would be in this part. Thank you. It's good to be before you again. I'm sorry that the full panel from the last meeting in Huntington wasn't here because one of the senators made some comment about my proposal to put Wayne County back together, and he wasn't too happy with that. But I would like to kind of tie that in with some comments that were made by the Lincoln County folks at the Chapmanville meeting. And that has to do with the magisterial districts. Now, as I told you in previous meetings, I've been working this for 30 years. And back in 1981, I sent the information about the inequities among the various magisterial districts across the state to A. James Manchin, who was then Secretary of State, and he sent out orders or letters to all the county commissions to try to bring them into compliance with the state code. And the first sentence of 7-2-2 about magisterial districts says, each county should be laid off by the county court, now county commission, into magisterial districts not less than 3, nor more than 10 in number, and as nearly equal as may be in territory and population. Now that's a requirement that the legislature has imposed on the county commissioners. So I would submit that if you have you impose a rule on the county commissioners in terms of a multi-member district, and we're not even getting the House of Delegates members, but county commissions are elected at large in most counties, and as are county school boards. But there are limits about how many people can live in a magisterial district. If you're in a county commission, you can have more than one person in a magisterial district from that magisterial district on the commission. If it's a county board, school board, no more than 2. Those are both now in the state constitution. Now, one of the problems I've had with the way the legislature has been splitting up the district that includes Cabell and Wayne County, which used to be all of both counties until I was out of law school, approximately, was that you had a little tiny piece of Wayne County put in with all of Cabell County. Well, there's a problem there because if you want the rest of the state to comply with the ideas that you have roughly equal sizes in your election districts, and you have Cabell County has 96,000 people, and a little piece of Wayne County that has somewhere around 4 or 5 or 6,000 people, that's manifestly unfair in terms of the public or somebody wanting to run for office, because that is a very small universe if you live in that little district in Wayne County, but it's a very big universe if you live in that district in Cabell County. And one of the many reasons I want to split up the big counties, Wood County accepted, because Wood County don't need to do it, is that if you're going to have 2 people go to the state senate, I assert that you should have more than 1/34 of the state's population in that county. If a county has less than 1/34 of the state's population, you shouldn't be splitting it up unless you absolutely have to. And the only place you absolutely have to do that is in Marshall County, because when you're coming down with the 1st senatorial district, you have to have all of Hancock, all of Brooke, all of Ohio, and then to get to 109,000, you have to take about 1/3 of Marshall County if you want to comply with the state constitution. But that is not necessary with respect to Cabell and Wayne. So I've said repeatedly, put Wayne back together. It's been separated for about 30 years. Put it back together and split Cabell. Put the part of Huntington with Cabell, the part of Huntington is in Cabell with Wayne, because part of Huntington is in Wayne. Put the precincts along the Ohio River with Wayne. But put the rest of Cabell, that's Barbersville, for example, and Milton, put that over in with the adjacent county of Lincoln. That's the logical one. Or if you want to hit the other county, Mason, or if you want to do that, that's fine. But just continuing to have for the legislature to create a very small piece of a county in terms of population is so small, it is a speck on this map of the senatorial districts. You try to find it, if you look at this map of the senatorial districts, it's like about the size of maybe a 1/4 or a 1/5 of an inch. You can, right there where my finger's pointing to, it's almost invisible. If you look at the West Virginia Senate Districts map, it looks like Wayne County split 2 ways. You have to look very carefully to see where Senator Klein was located because it's so small. So what I'm just saying is, that to me is always unfair. And he didn't have anything to do with it. And it goes back to when Senator Heck, perhaps before him, but it seems to me, when you split up that senatorial district so that 96,000 plus on one side and less than 10,000 on the other side, that is not a good use of the discretion of the West Virginia State Senate. Now, Senator Bowles asked me several times, what is my proposal on state senate for her district? And my proposal is to have a very compact district, which would be all of Wood, all of Wirt, all of Ritchie, and all of Pleasance, which is consistent. If you go back 30 or 40 years, it used to be those 4 counties plus Calhoun. But this district that I have suggested would be a little bit over 110,000. And with the averages, that and the part of Kanawha County that I live in would have almost identical populations, both of which would be under 111,000. Those would be the 2 most populous districts. So the idea is you should try to approach perfection, not try to go for the 5% on either side that you keep hearing about. Don't go for a C minus, go for an A. The state constitution says that the senatorial districts are supposed to be as close as possible numerically, but not crossing state lines, not crossing county lines. And what I said is, under my plan, you only split up 7 counties, the other 48 are not split up, and the counties, except for Marshall, all those are counties that have more than 1/34 of the state's population. With respect to single-member districts, I've been fighting for that for years. I fought for single-member districts in South Charleston back in 1982 and 83. We had to go to, we have initiative referendum recall in South Charleston, and I drafted a provision now in the city charter that we have 8 single-member wards. But before that, we had 4 2-member wards and 2 1-member wards. And when I told the council we ought to switch to single-member districts, it was a bipartisan majority overwhelmingly against me. If it hadn't been for the fact that we have initiative referendum recall, we could have overridden the city council. And a lot of you got voted out of office. I'm not asking anybody to vote out of office this year. All I'm just saying is we need to move into the 21st century. The county that I live in the district that I live in, next to New Hampshire, which is the worst state in the country as far as multi-member districts. I live in the second worst state, which is West Virginia. I live in the county that has the most members in the multi-member district, which is the 30th. There's 7 people elected in my district, and they're mostly from Charleston and South Charleston. You have areas like St. Albans that have way more than 18,000 people. I'm talking about the St. Albans High School attendance area. Probably have about 25,000 or so. Nobody has been in the legislature from St. Albans since the death of Dick Anderson. You had the Upper Kanawha Valley, which is right on the Riverside attendance area. We haven't had anybody from there since Rudy Sechrist and Leo Copeland. And I think Rudy Sechrist maybe even moved to Charleston when he was elected, but I mean, he used to be Marydale. Leo Copeland was a Republican from Eastbound. Those folks are the ones who vote. I mean, in the Upper Kanawha Valley, that's where you get a lot of the straight Democratic votes to send Democrats to county offices in Kanawha County. I think at the very least, we ought to be able to give those people at least one district that's wholly within that area that's a single-member district. So I'm working on those plans. I've been working on single-member, looking at Parkersburg and Vienna, or I've been going through those. But the good thing is they already have single-member districts. They don't have the problem we have in Kanawha County where we have multi-member districts. But that doesn't mean I necessarily agree with the current boundaries between them. But the big fight is over. Just as it is in Berkeley County, you all have single-member districts in Berkeley County. We're still way behind the rest of the state. We still have this big multi-member district. So anyway, I'm hoping that Joe Vaughn will finish my refined version on my Senate redistricting proposal, but under that, it'll be the same for this district as for the first thing, which is put those 4 counties into Senate District number 3, no divided counties, and Pleasance and Wood have been in for a long time, and they will continue to be so if the Senate adopts my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Senator Boley is a very brave woman to ask him to give comment with her district. And it goes to the notion of be careful what you ask for because you may get it. But we appreciate your input and comments. Now, I know some of you, the juices have to be flowing. Thornton brings it out in people. If you would like to speak now, please raise your hand and come forward so we can hear you. If you hadn't signed up. Anybody would like to speak or would like to either comment on someone else's suggestion on the redistricting in regards to the state, congressional districts, or the senatorial districts, particularly how it relates to this senatorial district. The counties, are they compatible, common communities of interest, and things like that? Anyone would like to speak? Okay, well, at this time, I will open it up to the panel if there's any comments or questions that they may have with anybody else that they've heard. Any member would like to make any comments or questions.
Dan and I do plan to have a public hearing later on in a month or so, maybe or less, to discuss, our district in particular, the House district, which is obviously different analysis than what's going on in the Senate.
Good. All right, thank you. Well, I guess I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. What I would ask is if you haven't signed up, please do so. If you have an address and or an email, please give that to us with promise. We won't sell it to any telemarketers, anything like that. What this is going to be used for will be to keep you informed of things that are happening as we go through the process. Because once we get into the redistricting special session, we will have a limited time to actually get this work done. So we won't have time to go back out into the communities again to solicit feedback on our product. But we will post maps, we will post information on our web that will give you opportunity to give us feedback on what we come up with, okay? The reason for this process of 10 years ago when we went through redistricting, this never happened. What happened, a special session was called, and therefore the map was presented, we voted on it within 3 or 4 days, and then the public didn't have any opportunity to give reaction to that, and it was a done deal, and life went on, and no one had an opportunity to correct it until now, every 10 years. When Acting President Kessler formed this task force, he made it very clear that he wanted to make that process totally open to the public, totally transparent and open, so that you got all the information that we have. So it's all on the web. Any information we have, you have it. And that anything that we do, we want you to comment on and then hold us accountable. Okay? And it's so important for the democracy. Before we leave, I want to introduce the staff here to tell you, to show our support. Jake Nichols, he's our legislative analyst for our group. Mark Makovich is back there. He's our legal guy to make sure we don't get in trouble or get arrested by the cop back here. And Tim Ward is taping the sessions, and also he's the one that does the tweets and the Facebooks and websites and all like that to keep us communicating. And also we have a very important guest that's here, Jack Boley, who's been at many of the meetings, more so than a lot of our members. He escorts, of course, Senator Boley around, and he's our road crew, I guess you could say. He helps set up, so we really appreciate his input. With that, I just really want to thank you, because you could have been anywhere this evening. It's a beautiful evening, and you chose to be here because you know it's important. It's the very foundation of our democracy. If we don't get this right, then we're not going to be able to pass the laws and pass the bills that was reflected to the people. And if you remember, the reason this country was formed was because the battle cry of taxation without representation. Okay? The people of this area, they were tired of Britain, the United Kingdom, making the laws and not having anybody there to speak on their behalf. Well, that's the same thing here. If we don't get the redistricting right, then people will be disenfranchised because they won't have the representation they need in Charleston or in Washington in order to make sure your interests are upheld. And you took the time to be here because you know how important it is. And for that, I thank you. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you as we continue this process. With that, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you. Yeah, good luck with it.
Yeah, go get it. Go get a good crowd too.
Thank you.